Catholicism has greatly influenced modern society by providing us with education, healthcare, social justice, and most of all, the Crusades. But what if the Catholic faith no longer existed? In this video, you will witness the rewriting of history, a quest for power driven by the will of the ancient gods, leading to the ultimate destruction of the Catholic faith as we know it today. This is Count Destroyer of Faith, who ruled over the county of Lucca in the region of Tuscany, Italy. It all began on his 18th birthday when he was visited in a dream by Odin, the mightiest of the Norse gods. As the Count woke up the following morning, he knew what to do. He had to take over Italy. Possessing such a vast territory would grant the dynasty of faith enough sovereignty to finally dismantle the papacy once and for all. Realizing that his modest army of 466 levies would not be sufficient to take land by force, Destroyer devised a shrewd plan. He set his sights on Duchess Matilda of Tuscany, intending to win her over and marry her. By doing so, their offspring would inherit the whole Duchy of Tuscany, providing his heir with a substantial piece of land. Destroyer learned how to fabricate a hook on Matilda, but before he could use it to force her into marriage, she married another guy and even got pregnant. But that's nothing a little intrigue can't fix. Destroyer managed to seduce Matilda, murder her husband, and use the fabricated hook to secure the marriage. Ka-ching! 9 months later, their son and heir, Slayer of Faith, was born, with the Duchy of Tuscany already on his name. Destroyer arranged a betrothal between his son and a Hungarian woman. This gave him an alliance with the Hungarian Count. With the newfound alliance in the pocket, Destroyer started a war against the neighboring county of Bologna. Unfortunately, he lost the war as the Hungarian Count was too slow to arrive and provide support. After the failed war, Destroyer was blessed once again as he welcomed his second child into the world. Welcome, Obliterator of Faith. Get ready to be married off to an old rich guy someday soon. And soon it was. She was married off to the Count of Ancona. Although he didn't have the biggest army, at least he was closer by than Hungary and could help out in a pinch. And while Destroyer was diving deeper into the art of schemery, his second son, Crusher of Faith, was born, serving as a potential successor in case something unfortunate were to happen to Slayer. Destroyer knew it was about time to expand his lands. He had a claim on the county of Bologna, but the holder Count Ugo was too strong to fight heads-on. Destroyer decided to murder him so he could then fight the war against his weaker son, which worked out great. Destroyer now owned 2 counties, and this was just the beginning. The papacy wasn't disbanded yet, so let's just make good use of it. Destroyer started swaying the Pope, so he could then request money for piety in the future. Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. Oh, Vladimir the Impaler. Sounds like a nice enough guy to marry my daughter off to. It was time for Destroyer to expand his territory once again. With his new son-in-law Vladimir the Impaler by his side, he felt ready to take on the Bishop of Ravenna and conquer his land. During the war, Destroyer was blessed with the birth of his second son, Eater of Faith. The joy this brought him gave him the strength to win the war with ease. Very soon after the war, a messenger arrived with terrible news for Destroyer. He was informed that his wife died of self-flagellation. What did you do? You whipped yourself to death? Oh my god. Well, this meant that their son Slayer inherited the Duchy of Tuscany, and he was now both Destroyer's heir and liege. Destroyer knew it was almost time to hand over the reins to his son. However, before he did, he used his skills in subterfuge to murder his son's wife, who was too old to bear him a child and heir. Destroyer told his son about Odin's shocking request, and just a few days later, Slayer found his father's lifeless body in his bathtub. With both his father and mother gone, Slayer was left alone with Odin's quest. Slayer was determined to use his martial education to the fullest, and while he knew he couldn't conquer all of Italy by himself, he was determined to lay the foundation for future generations to continue the family's pursuit. The papacy will fall. Slayer was a capable guy, possessing strong martial and intrigue skills, along with a decent income. And with all of Tuscany now under his control, which was nearly half of Italy, Slayer had a solid foundation to expand on even further. The Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire also saw promise in his skills, and he asked Slayer to become his marshal, with all the benefits that came with it. After the death of his parents, the realm was divided between Slayer and his brothers. His brother, Eater of Faith, became Duke of Emilia and asked for an alliance. But Slayer had different plans and refused the offer. Instead, he declared war upon him to press his claim on the Duchy of Emilia and defeated his brother in the war. In CK3, the bishop is used to fabricate claims and gain land quickly. But Bishop Raimundo was shit. Slayer decided to have him killed, and the next guy, yeah, was even worse. Okay, let's just murder another one then, and... What? Even worse? See, this is why we want to dismantle the papacy. Oh, come on, Pope. It was now time for the Crusades, and Duke Slayer nominated his sister, Obliterator, as his beneficiary, hoping to secure her some land if the crusade was successful. Not long after the beginning of the Crusades, Slayer's son and heir, Conflagrator of Faith, was born. Slayer approached the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire and requested the Duchy of Spoleto, which was currently held by his brother Crusher. Surprisingly, his request was granted just in time, as just moments later the Emperor passed away, and the new Emperor wasn't as fond of Slayer. Thanks man, free duchy. The Crusades were successful and Slayer's sister Obliterator was granted the County of Majorca, which wasn't all that great because now he couldn't sell her off into marriage anymore. However, Slayer still had one sister left, Betterer of Faith, whom he married off to a duke in Poland with 5k troops. This effectively more than doubled his levies. Using his newly gained alliance, Slayer waged a war to press a claim on Ancona for one of his counts. With each victory, the unification of Italy drew closer, and with it, the fulfillment of Odin's divine task. Slayer's income was pretty decent, but he recognized that he needed a better cash flow to achieve his goals. He made the decision to designate Florence as the capital of his realm, as it offered more building plots than Lucca. Additionally, he dispatched his steward to boost development in Florence and invest in its future prosperity. Slayer was a true martial leader and got the strategist perk, which gave him even greater advantages in war. And war is exactly what he did during his lifetime, slowly but surely expanding his domain. Slayer went on a pilgrimage and using his newfound pilgrim trait, he convinced the Pope to grant him a claim on the Duchy of Apulia. Then Slayer made a grave mistake when he attempted to plot the murder of Matilda, and he didn't notice that her son was a ruler in Croatia. Now he needed to face the entire Croatian nation. Now he needed to face the entire kingdom of Croatia if he wanted to press his claim on Apulia. Whoopsie. Well, that's now a problem for my heir. Goodbye. Not long after, Slayer's strongest alliance came to an end with the death of his sister. To strengthen his bonds, he needed more children. But with his current wife no longer able to bear them, he made the decision to murder her and marry a younger woman. Oh, Crusader Kings, you make life sound so easy. And finally, the day had arrived. Slayer had accumulated enough land to create the Kingdom of Romagna. He knew his father would be proud, and he felt that Odin was pleased by his accomplishments. Romagna would be the first of many to come. And then it happened. Slayer, with all the great achievements he had made, passed away not long after the coronation, leaving behind the freshly created Kingdom of Romagna, which would be the foundation for the successes of his descendants. And successful is what they would become. His son Conflagrator took up the reins and continued his father's quest for Odin. He reunited Italy by stealing the kingdoms from his brothers, and he gradually conquered territory in Italy, one county and duchy at a time. He formed powerful alliances that enabled him to challenge the Kingdom of Croatia and seize control of the Duchy of Apulia as well as other territories beyond. As he approached the end of his own life, Italy was on the verge of unification thanks to his efforts. He passed the reins on to his son, Exterminator of Faith, who is now King of Romagna and continued his father's legacy and achieved even greater successes. Under the leadership of Exterminator, the Kingdom of Italy and the Kingdom of Corsica were reconquered. The only obstacle that stood in Exterminator's way in his quest to create the Empire of Italy was his vassalage to the Holy Roman Empire. However, he was able to secure his independence through an easy war, as the Emperor was preoccupied with other conflicts, leaving Exterminator free to lay siege on the Empire's capital. That was just too easy, come on. Thus, with Italy being independent now, Exterminator of Faith successfully established the Empire of Italia, granting him and his descendants the authority to conquer the remaining territories in Italy and further solidifying Odin's mandate. Shortly after the empire's establishment, the emperor passed away while fighting for one of the few remaining counties in Italy still under the control of the Kingdom of Croatia. His son Lamberto took his reins from him and continued his quest. Yeah, Lamberto of Faith. The only one I didn't name, so the only one with a freaking normal name. Lamberto proved to be a skilled leader, successfully unifying the entire region of Italy under his rule. He also forged an alliance with the Holy Roman Empire and persuaded the emperor to turn against the papacy and take over the last remaining piece of influence from the Pope. who was now officially unlanded. And like that, he did what Odin had asked from his great-great-grandfather. But I couldn't let a guy named Lamberto destroy the Catholic faith. Well, I did my best to give all those crazy names to those guys. So, when everything was staged for the dismantling of the papacy, Lamberto committed suicide, leaving it all to his son, Eater of Faith II. For generations, the Dynasty of Faith had kept a secret that was bestowed upon them by Odin. The first in their house to receive the divine quest was Count Destroyer of Faith, who passed it down to his son and successive generations, culminating in Emperor Eater of Faith II. It was only when Eater of Faith revealed his true identity as the last ASATRU, touched by Odin himself, that the true purpose behind the empire was made clear. He confronted the Pope and just before he slayed him, declared the papacy dismantled. Following the fall of the papacy, the Catholic faith was left without its leader. In the Empire of Italia, the Norse faith began to rise again. What will become now of the mighty Europe? Only time will tell. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like the video and subscribe to the channel, and see you guys next time. Bye!